Childerbridge was a peculiar city, as was its founder, rest his poor soul. He built the bridge the city was named for from the hardest, coldest granite a man could quarry, and spanned the shivering river to connect the world of fairy with the mortal world of man. Some say that anciently, fairies lured children away as captive labor, and there was no way back to the mortal world until the completion of stone-cold Childerbridge. Fairies may chart their course by firefly lights, but for mortal travelers, north must be true. So the city founder was fond of saying, and he had good reasons too, we suppose. Maybe Heber Childers himself was once spellbound by a fairy's deceit, long ago. Magical lies are particularly cruel. The bridge was built so long ago, who could know? It would, however, explain so many things about the city and its people. A great skepticism of magic prevailed in the entire city of Childerbridge. Though if the absolute truth were known, the purest magic never lied. Annabelle sat still as a glass statue behind her desk in a classroom as chilly as unkindness. The clock on the wall measured out the silence with a soft tick, 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 and the air around her mouth frosted with the release of every cautious breath. She had dressed hastily, not in her school uniform, but in last year's dress, and it pinched her waist. As for her hair, she had not combed it at all, and unruly brown wisps had escaped from her braid, curling around the top of her head like a sort of rogue pillow. Mrs. Birdankle stared down from the front of the classroom, keeping her distance as though Annabelle carried a germ. At last she spoke. "Miss Silvers, I realize this will come as a shock, but there's no helping it. As of this morning, the justices of the Shiversvale Commonwealth have locked your father up in Childerbridge Tower, dispossessing him of his entire fortune. You are as penniless as a straying mongrel." She searched Annabelle's face, possibly looking for evidence of these tidings' brutality upon her spirit. But Annabelle neither collapsed her shoulders nor dropped her gaze to the floor. She stared back at Mrs. Birdankle, concentrating as much self into her expression as she could muster. Mrs. Birdankle frowned. "Did you hear what I said?" Annabelle didn't blink. "It isn't true." Mrs. Birdankle blinked a great deal, and she also sniffed. "He was caught red-handed with secret documents, and with the Queen's brooch in his pocket. There can be no doubt of your father's guilt. You, child, must learn to feel and to wear your shame in your countenance. It should touch your face. It should bear down upon your shoulders. You have nothing, and you are nothing but a liar." Mrs. Birdankle paused. "A respectable lady has written, and has proposed to take responsibility for you. Leave your uniforms and folks. You'll have no further use for such things. Your educational career is over. Look forward to a future of poverty and ignorance." Annabelle swallowed, and for the first time that morning, she dropped her gaze and felt her cheeks burn with an awful, scorching shame. Mrs. Durham called an emergency meeting of the Ladies' Aviary Goodwill Society on account of the delicious gossip that had been stirring up the great city of Childerbridge. Good gossip was perishable, and Mrs. Durham wasn't the kind of lady to let spoil an entree of this quality. She held her tongue through tea service and kept silent during the initial small talk, which was unfortunately necessary, though tedious. "I can't tell you what trouble I've been having keeping a servant to look after my pigeon deck," Mrs. Holmes complained. "I've lost my third girl in 2 weeks." "Poor dear," Mrs. Hathaway soothed, though she'd all but lost her hearing and had no idea what Mrs. Holmes had said. Mrs. Durham tutted. "Iris, dear, nothing more about your pigeon-befouled roof. We have more important matters to discuss today. You are aware, of course, of what happened at Shadwick Palace last week." "I never read the newspapers, Hannah. They're too vulgar," said Mrs. Honey. "Certainly. However, a lady must come to the aid of her queen." "The Queen?
Whatever ails her? The crime of the century, that's what. It isn't strictly corroborated, but there is a very strong rumor going around that the crown jewels are stolen.
Mrs. Holmes startled, spilling her tea all over her skirt.
Oh, this is terrible. She dabbed her skirt with the table linen. Indeed. But who has done it? A perfectly tragic person, an entertainer, calls himself a magician. Not that man with the doves at the Millennium. Yes, exactly. I saw his show last season. He made an entire flock of doves completely disappear. It was astonishing. I wanted to call the Humane Society and make a complaint. Well, he couldn't make a diamond brooch disappear. They caught him with it in his coat pocket. Then they've recovered everything, all of the jewels, nothing but the brooch. And the magician maintains he's innocent, though his prints were found all over it. They arrested him on the spot, blustering all the while that he was set up. And indeed, there seems to have been another person involved. But he's disappeared. But who was the accomplice? The Queen's own driver, if you can imagine. A man called Jacob Unwich. His low-life friends call him Red Jake. But the authorities must find him. They can't let him get away with such a crime. The magician claims they'll never find him, because he was magically transported. Transported? Yes, the over earth or underneath or some madness. Said it with a straight face. You can imagine the Queen's fright. The thief from her own staff. The palace must be in perfect turmoil. I should say so, said Mrs. Holmes, dabbing her skirts. They say, said Mrs. Hurst, the magician had a daughter at school.
She cannot remain at school, of course. She has no living kin, and no one will take the daughter of a criminal.
Pitiful creature. Indeed. Mrs. Holmes glanced up from her tea stain. What do they call the girl? Haven't the faintest. But perhaps she's good at scrubbing. I should inquire. The ladies around the tea table all drew a unified gasp. Well, I've just got to get somebody. She's unlikely to get anything better under the circumstances.